Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HR Roundtable. I'm PJ Trudeau. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very excited to have Veronica Matthews with us here today. We're going to be talking about future-proofing your workplace, proactive engagement strategies for the modern HR leader. One of the things that I had talked with Veronica about as we were talking about this session and what she would be able to share with all of you was that engagement is absolutely something that I think we are all constantly struggling with and trying to identify other things that we could be doing and can be doing with our staff. So was very excited when we were talking about what she was planning on sharing with everyone today. Uh, Veronica Matthews is a founder and chief leadership coach of BLM Coaching and Consulting Services. She brings over 25 years of experience in corporate human resources to her work. As an executive coach and corporate trainer, Veronica supports her clients in using emotional intelligence to become more effective leaders, guiding them to embrace challenging aspects of leadership, such as managing conflict, change, communication, and building culture. Veronica, we are so happy to have you join us today. Let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you're joining. It is my pleasure to be with you on this Friday morning. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to share with you in order to be able to encourage you and as you're moving through your organizations with employee engagement. And I was talking with PJ in the beginning, and we were talking about how the HR Roundtable was over the pandemic and how we were all in this kind of building the planes and flying them at the same time. And one of the things that we learned over the pandemic was HR is not the end all be all when it comes to employee engagement. That the managers, the leaders in our organizations are those who lead the employee engagement efforts. And it really is up to us to empower them, to equip them, and to be able to support them. So hopefully, these strategies today will be ones that will help you moving forward and will help you to empower your organization, strengthen your organizations so that you can look like the hero and to be able to really help to turn the tide of some of the challenges that we experience through employee engagement. So, and again, I'm grateful to be here. Would love to know what area of the country you're dialing in from, because I know the HR Roundtable is not just the DMV. So if you can let me know in the chat what area you're calling from, you're dialing in from, and also what sort of organization are you working with? Are you working with a nonprofit? Are you in the public sector? Are you in the private sector? Are you in manufacturing? Those type of things will be very helpful to know. So let me know in the chat and we'll get started. So, as PJ mentioned, I am Veronica Matthews, and the what I'll say additionally is that I help organizations really build emotionally intelligent leaders, and I prefer to work with leaders as a cohort because I think that's very important for gelling the organization together and ensuring that the organization is on the same page. Because oftentimes when there is a disconnect and people are doing their own thing, there is not a unit that sometimes leads to challenges within organizations. And I'm not a mom, but I am an auntie and a great auntie. And I believe that it's not a zero-sum game. We can all win and we can all win together. All right. So wonderful. Thanks so much for chiming in. All right. Florida, nonprofits. Private sector, New Jersey, HR Department of One, been there. Des Moines, Iowa, wonderful. Wow, thank you so much. And it's early there for you. So thank you for being here. All right, so let's get started. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to do some definitions because I'm not sure what level you all are. And some people may be early in their career, some people are seasoned and probably have been in it for a minute, but we're going to do some level setting with some definitions. Then we're going to talk about according to Gallup, where is the state of employee engagement today? Then we're going to talk about the four future proofing strategies that I've come up with. And then we're going to take a step back to talk about leaders because leaders are the linchpin in employee engagement. Then we're going to talk about if you're just getting started and employee engagement is like what, then you can maybe the place that you start, kind of the starting block for employee engagement. Then we're going to talk about how do you build your action plan. So now that you have a little bit of information, where do you go and how do you get started with implementing? And as I was telling PJ, I am not one to make you save your questions up like little nuts. So if you have questions as we go along, if you have comments, feel free to use your emojis, feel free to use the chat, and uh, PJ will help me monitor the chat. So let's get started. All right. So when it comes to the definition of what employee engagement is, Gallup says that employee engagement is when individuals are connected to the mission, vision, and values of the organization. They see themselves in the organization. They can connect the dots to where the organization is going, what the purpose is. And it really is a formula of three things: individuals that are committed, individuals that are involved in meaning that they are not just the doing the bare minimum Monday and they're not doing the quiet quitting, that they're actually involved in what's going on and they're enthusiastic. They're willing to recommend their organization to others. That in that combination in is an engaged employee. And so, as we know, Gallup is the organization that has defined what employee organization is, and they have indicated that there are three levels of engaged employees that are those that are engaged, meaning that they are all those three. They are committed, they're involved, and they're enthusiastic. Then there are those that are disengaged. And disengaged means that one of the three is missing. One or more of the three is missing. And then you have those that are actively disengaged. Those are the individuals that are working against you and the organization being successful. So those are the individuals that are rebel rousers, they're trouble starters, they're the ones that are not happy and they don't want others to be happy as well. They're not happy with the organization and they don't want others to be engaged and happy with the organization. And so I just did a presentation to the Prince George's County government, and I was helping them to understand that you want to be able to track and identify those that are actively disengaged and move them to the middle, move them to being at least disengaged, because the more that they're actively disengaged and they're sabotaging your efforts, the more damage that they're doing, and help the leaders to be able to identify them and move them to the middle. And then hopefully you can get them to the engaged side of the fence, and but at least keep them away from the fringes and being in that actively disengaged state. So, question for you: do you have, or what are you doing to identify individuals that are at any level of the engagement cycle? Are you doing employee engagement surveys? Are you doing pulse surveys? Are you checking in with your leaders if you're a business partner and you have a particular group? Are you checking in with them to find out how things are going? What are you doing? Is it formal? Is it informal? Let me know in the chat. What are you doing to identify where your team members might be in the cycle? Engagement surveys, post surveys, check-ins, stay interviews. I love that. Yeah, stay interviews are hugely important because they can be done at any time. They're not necessarily ones to be done on any particular cycle. They could be integrated into regular one-on-ones. And that's what I help my clients to be able to do, to build engagement into everyday activities that you do, because that helps you to remain connected to your team. So stay interviews, annual engagement surveys, check-ins, stay interviews, engagement surveys. The owner of my company doesn't think we need to do anything. Okay. All right, Tracy. Well, thank you for being transparent with that. And hopefully, if you need any support with that, please reach out and let me know. Very informal. We're 16 people. You're the first HR person. Wonderful. So you can start and to build these things in to what you are, as how the support that you offer to your team. So I'm excited. Thank you. All right. So, where does employee engagement stand today? Well, right now, as far as the looking back to 2024, Gallup indicated that employee engagement stand at 31%. And so that means that 31%, that's less than half of organizations that are out there in the United States there, that is where the employee engagement stands. And if you think that that is troublesome, then you're on the right track. And since the pandemic, it seems like it is declining, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But that is something to be concerned about, and that we'll talk about the ways in which it shows up. But it is very concerning for HR professionals. And so, if you think about it, the disengaged, remember that was the middle category. Those are the people that are lacking one of three, either commitment, enthusiasm, or involvement. And so, 52%, so that's more than half. That is challenging. And then the actively disengaged, I'm glad it's less than 20%, but still, even at 17%, is a little bit concerning. And so over the course of the years, what does that look like? Well, it has looked like, and it looks like the overall engagement, it looks like it's a little flat. However, there is some decline. So 2019, where we were 20 with the pandemic, it was probably it increased a little bit in 2021, but then 2022 stable, 2023 decline, 2024 starting to decline a little bit more. Now, the other line is life evaluation. So individuals that within the organization felt that they are thriving. I put this in there because, as you can see, that is significantly declining over the course of the years. So it was high 2017. It was maybe at a little bit of a peak in 2019, but then since 2020, it is starting to go down incrementally. So what that tells us is that individuals are not feeling very comfortable. They're not feeling that the employer is really on their side. Now, there's been this TikTok trend, right, of HR is not your friend or HR is not on your side, and that it's like nails on a chalkboard for me because we're both, right? We're both representing the employer and the employee. And as when I was an HR professional, I was really on the standpoint of I'm an employee too. So I'm going to always advocate for employees. I'm going to balance it with minimizing risk for the employer, yes. But when it comes to what's happening, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to what benefits, I want to benefit both the employee and the employer. But I'm going to err on the side of the employee. And so when it comes to thriving at work, I want employees to thrive and I want the employees to thrive because I'm an employee. And I also want to be there in the trenches and to really support and to really help. So when it comes to individuals thriving throughout the organization, we really want to look at what are some of the root causes and how can we address those at the root, and then how do we let our leaders know that there's leaders out there that are like, we don't need to do anything, nothing to see here, as long as they're coming to work, as long as they're making me money, I really don't care. And we want to be able to appeal to the leaders to let them understand that, listen, if we do people over profits, our profits will increase. And that is a hard pill to swallow, and it's difficult to communicate sometimes. But actually, we're very data centric these days. So data can paint the picture to help communicate that, listen, if we help our employees thrive, they will help the organization thrive. All right, so let's get in. I'm not going to make you wait too much longer. We talked about the doom and gloom. Let's get into what some of these strategies are. So, well, I have a poll question first. Sorry. Um, where do you stand with those numbers? 31%. For those of you that are doing surveys, 31%, 52% disengaged, 17% actively disengaged. Where are your numbers? If you are aware, are you higher than average? Are you about the same? Are you lower than average? Or are you just not sure? And if you're not sure, it's okay. No harm, no foul. We're here to help and hopefully help you be able to ascertain where you are. So let me know in the chat. Are you, as far as your organization, are your numbers higher? Are you lower? Are you about the same? Or are you not sure? Okay. Okay. So one higher, one about the same, higher. Wonderful. That is awesome. Glad to hear that. Yay. Okay. We're about average, one outlier, actively okay, only one. That's great. Lower than average. EMPS went from 0 to 8 and now 16. Okay. All right. So you're rising though. Um, got it. Okay. So thank you for letting me know. And let's now talk about the disengagement and kind of what it costs us. So we're not done with the doom and gloom yet before we move into. So as we know, that when we lose an employee, not only are we losing institutional knowledge, but it's costing. So their salary doubled usually is what it costs to replace them. And so the when you are extremely disengaged, it's costing in the millions, $25 million in organizations in the United States. When moderately disengaged, it's costing a little less, but about um, and it's costing in productivity, turnover, and adverse impact on the culture. So all of those are cost factors, and somewhat disengaged. And then when you have engaged employees, it's still a little bit of a cost. However, it's much lower. And so we can see that when we're able to shift our employees from actively disengaged to disengaged and even push them from disengaged to engaged, then we're able to save our organizations money. And these are some of the figures that we can help explain to our leaders that listen, and our CEOs, our executive teams that listen, it's costing us money. And it's not just enough for us to slap another body in a seat to replace or to redistribute work once a person leaves, that we've got to fix the root cause. And how do we get there? How do we identify that? And then how do we help them understand? So how do we get to these numbers? Well, we get to these numbers because the causes of disengagement are many. They range from lack of growth opportunities for employees don't feel like there's a real career path, that there is opportunity for them to grow within their organization. The poor leadership, that we know that individuals are not really equipped to do what they need to do. They're flying by the seat of their pants. They're doing what the leaders did that they studied under. They're doing what they're doing, and it's not intrinsic for them. It doesn't feel natural. And so they're making mistakes, and they're turning people away. So that old adage that people don't leave organizations, they leave their managers. And so that's part of the reason why we result in turnover. Toxic work culture. Hopefully that doesn't exist with anyone here, but sometimes it does. And so how do we address that? The lack of work-life balance, doing more with less, right? And so when individuals leave, then we, instead of hiring someone else, we just redistribute that work. And so that is not quite fair. That leads to the overworked and the overload, and then inadequate compensation. We talked about thriving and how that is declining. When organizations are making lots of money, but then there's only 3% that individuals get as far as an increase, that doesn't match and it doesn't make sense. Or when organizations actively have, oh, we're going to lag the market, that compensation strategy doesn't work very well. And so that leads to disengagement as well. And so when that shows up, well, how does all this show up? Well, it shows up in that people start calling out. There's the tardiness to meetings, or they're lagging everything. There's high turnover, poor customer service. The customers start complaining and reaching out. Then there is destructive conflict, and that's a whole different topic. But destructive conflict is where the the conflict that exists inter-team and intra-team happens to impact and break down relationships and cause lack of productivity and lack of innovation. And when problems become bigger than they really are. And so, how do we turn these things around? So, let's now get into the strategies. Well, I think I have another poll question for you before we get there. So, what are you seeing in your organizations? Are you seeing high turnover? Are you seeing lower productivity? Are you seeing a lower innovation? Are you seeing destructive conflict? Are you seeing absenteeism? Are you seeing something else? Let me know what you're witnessing in your all of the above, right? C, low innovation. C and D, low innovation and destructive conflict. E, something else. Okay. And so because you're experiencing these things, 11 of our staff are unionizing. Oh, wow. So their voices are being heard. Got it. Turnover, productivity. Wow. Thanks for sharing. And so, since we're kind of seeing different things or maybe some of the same things, let's tackle this. Let's get into some strategies that will hopefully turn this around. So, the strategies that I've come up with you for are, have you talked about what your employee experience should be, or what do you envision that you want your employees to experience when they join your organization? If you haven't looked into what that is, let's talk about that. Then, since we know that leaders are the forefront of employee engagement, how do we equip them? Let's get them involved and on board as engagement coaches. Let's train them to be the coaches that champion engagement. Let's help them through leader-led sprints. To once you do your overall engagement surveys and you identify where some of your challenges are, how do you help them dig in and get to the root cause of what's happening in their particular teams? Then there is meaning and purpose mapping, and that's all about um, in that's the piece of the puzzle where a person is involved and they're enthusiastic. And so, how do you help them see where they fit into the puzzle? So, let's break each of these down. So, when it comes to defining your employee experience, what do you want it to look like? What do you envision that dash between their start date and their separation date? What do you want it to be like according to what your organizational goals are? And what your leaders have envisioned as the future of the organization. What do you want that white glove treatment to be? And so your leaders may think, well, we can't afford white glove treatment. And I would offer that you can't afford not to have white glove treatment. Because again, if you put people over profits, your profits arise. That's what Gallup says. That's what all of the organizations are saying, that if you treat people well, they will treat your customers well, they will treat your clients well. And it's reflective of how they're treated, how they end up treating in most cases, in some cases anyway, how they treat the clients and the customers. So let's talk about, what do you want it to be? How do you define it? And then, if you already have an employee experience strategy, how are you auditing that? How are you checking in to make sure that what you envisioned is actually what is the real life situation? And then when you come up, so that sometimes you can audit that through the employee engagement surveys, but other times you need to have interviews with your team members. You need to help your attend some of your team meetings, your manager team meetings, to kind of do some on the spot post surveys, like or maybe even attend your ERG meetings, your employee resource group meetings, in order to be able to say, through the lens of these employee resource groups, what do you think about the company? How is the company serving you? How is the company hearing your voice? And then how does that relate to the employee experience that we want you to have? And where can we do better? And where are we thriving, and where can we do some changes? And so get out there, talk to the people. It's more than just the stay interviews. Stay interviews are a part of it, but again, it is, what do we want the experience to be? And then how are we doing compared to what that experience is? And then how do we then address it? What are we a target? And so that's part of the root cause. So once you identify where you are compared to where you want to be, then that's part of the root cause identification. So let me know in the chat. Um, does your organization have an employee experience strategy, an idea of what you want your employee experience to be? Let me know. Yes, no, great idea? Not yet. Awesome. Not yet. I love it. And so hopefully this is one of the employee experience strategies that you can begin to implement. So you can work with your leaders to, you can even be the innovator of that. Like, man, I came into this organization and now I want to help this organization thrive and move forward. So I'm going to envision what the employee experience, what I want it to be, and what fits within the organization. And then you can ideate that with your team. And then once you come up with what it is, then you can present that to your leadership team and say, this, I believe, will be what helps to push this organization to the being an employer of choice, being one that individuals will clamor to work for, because we know what the path and the strategy that we want them to experience with us. So your nonprofits, I think it is somewhat easy to do that with nonprofits, only because people are drawn for the mission. And once they get there, then it's like, okay, how do I fit in with this mission, and how do I make it work? And then when you identify what that employee experience, what you want to that to be, and to help usher them into that maintaining their connection to the mission, then that's how we would get there. So I'm glad to see that you're excited about the opportunity to be able to create the employee experience strategy for your organizations. All right, so this employee engagement strategy number two is a leader that have the leaders. Uh, Leadership is hard, I know, and there's a lot to do. However, when we help them understand their role in employee engagement, then it helps them to do it and actually feel good about doing it, and maybe be champions for employee engagement. So, how do you do that? Well, it does begin with training, because they know their operational work, and they may be people, they may be charismatic, or they could be kind of thrown into this, and maybe they were promoted because they were a solid individual contributor and have no earthly idea how to lead. And so, our role as HR individuals is to help them understand what their role is in employee engagement, training, coaching them through, and then equipping them with the tools that will help them be champions for employee engagement. Because excuse me, when it comes to them, their numbers, they have KPIs, they have the objectives and key results to meet. And if they realize that they are underperforming, then typically the underperforming, it could be related to their work relationship with their team. How are they ensuring that they're committed and that they're involved and that they're enthusiastic? And if they're not able to do that, then how can we help them champion that? Because then we can know that that can result in their ability to turn those numbers around and actually meet their goals. And if your organization has um, bonuses, then how do you help them achieve their bonus, right? And so, how do you help it turn into a win-win? And how do you help them build psychological safety? How do you help them create that culture of feedback? How do you help them increase their emotional intelligence so that they can check in with their teams regularly and they can know their whether their team members are engaged or disengaged or actively disengaged, and how do you help them turn that around? And so, um, let me know in the chat. Do you currently have a leadership training program, one that focuses on helping them understand their role in the employee engagement cycle, one that helps them build psychological safety, one that helps them increase their emotional intelligence? Do you have any training programs that actually support that? So you don't? Okay. And so I believe, no, you weren't the same that didn't have the leader didn't think that that was important, but hopefully we can turn that around. Okay, so it doesn't exist now. And so hopefully this is something that you can help institute. Now, for those of you that are departments of one, or those of you that maybe the budgets don't support that, well, how do you get started with that? Well, one of the things you can do is there are some off-the-shelf things that are available. I know that, kind of a sidebar, I do some webinars with an organization called Compliance IQ. So every once in a while, there is a webinar out there that is, if you purchase the package for the organizational multiple seats is pretty affordable and great tools to help leaders with actually helping in increasing their relationship IQ, emotional intelligence, and their psychological safety. Sure, absolutely. Not a formal program, but I have conducted a leadership training on owning engagement when presenting the engagement results. Wonderful. That is awesome. And so when you're able to help them understand what their role is, because many of them are like, employee engagement, what is that? And what does that mean for me? And so, again, it is what are they doing on a regular basis that can help focus on employee engagement? So, how are they having their one-on-ones? Are they leading the one-on-ones? Or are they allowing the employees to take more ownership of the one-on-ones? Are they checking in with their employees about what types of development interests they have? I can include it. So PJ is going to send out the slide deck, and I can also attach with that a one-on-one profile that I have that helps leaders to be able to move from connection to coaching to commitment and then to what's next. And so that's a great tool to get started with. And so I'll include that as a resource with the slide deck, as well as the compliance IQ trainings that I do. And so helping them understand their role in employee engagement is hugely important. And it actually helps you not have so much, initially, it will be a big lift for you. But once you are able to plant the seeds, then Only thing you have to do is continue watering them, and then they will grow, and then you'll actually see the fruits of your labor. All right. So let's go move on to strategy number three. Strategy number three is once you've identified where the gaps are. So you've done your pulse survey, you've done your stay interviews, you've done your employee engagement survey, you identify as you presenting to your business unit where they stand, what are some of the areas that need addressing. Then once you've trained your leaders how to be champions for employee engagement, let them engage in engagement sprints. What does that mean? Well, once you've identified that maybe people are bored in their meetings, right? They think they're meeting too much, or the meetings just don't, they're not meeting, or they're not giving what they should be giving. So then it's like, okay, what we're going to do, and this is you're supporting your leader with identifying, they've identified this, and now this they want to address it. So then it's like, okay, I've heard you. The meetings are boring. The meetings are not giving. What do we need to do differently? And so ideate with the team. What'll help make the meetings more efficient? What'll help making the meetings more interesting? Instead of just reporting out, how do we connect? How do we get some synergy? And so when you ideate what the ideas can be of how do we improve, then how do we implement? How do we implement those changes? How do we test those changes? How do we edit and then evaluate and then figure out what works? So, figure out what the ideas are. How do we make these meetings better? Then, how do you implement them? And then how do you evaluate them, and then how do you review and make some changes. And so then once you get the meetings back on track, then talk about another thing. What's the next thing? Maybe it's the team communication. And so then you get everybody together and say, how can we improve our team communication? Maybe it is bringing in a consultant that helps to coach the whole team on better communication strategies. Maybe it is a conflict between two team members that are causing people to pick sides, destructive conflict, and then how do you help them come back together? And then once you figure out what are the things that you can do to address the communication challenges, then it's like, how do you implement it? Then how do you test it? And then how do you evaluate it? And then make any edits that you need to make. So one by one, once you've identified what those root causes are, address them and get the team members involved in addressing them. And then once you get the team members involved in addressing them, then you start to increase their commitment and their involvement and their enthusiasm. Because if they hear it's not just enough to do employee engagement surveys and then say, oh, yeah, we want to make some changes, and then they don't hear anything. That'll cause turnover. That'll cause people to be disengaged because they're like, yeah, you're asking my opinion, but you're not doing anything about it. And so once you say, I hear you, let's work on this together. Then once they see that you're making an effort and the leader is making an effort, then they're going to be more involved and more excited and enthusiastic about what is happening. So leader-led sprints. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think that it could, how effective do you think it could be? And maybe this is the answer to those, as you're presenting the results to your business units, it's like, okay, how do we address this? How do we address it one by one and get the team involved? So leader-led sprints, what are your thoughts on those? Let me know in the chat. And I know I speak faster than you type, so I'll give you a chance to digest that. But I'll move on in the meantime. So, lastly, it's meaning and purpose mapping. Love the idea. Our leaders have no right. I totally agree that That helps when you hold their feet to the fire. That listen, this isn't me, this is you. I'm help me help you, right? Yeah. Awesome. Proximity to the business units through HRBPs allowed us to identify leaders. Yes, wonderful. Okay, meaning and purpose mapping. And so this is probably going to be the most foo-foo of the strategies and probably one of the most difficult to get your executive leaders to buy into. However, one of the most effective. Because again, when a person is able to see themselves in the overall results of the organization, what is the mission? What is the the end all, kind of the outcome? When they are able to see themselves in the outcome, then they're more excited and they're more enthusiastic and they're more involved. And so when you do meaning and purpose mapping, this is going to take some individual work. And so this is where the manager, the leader in their one-on-ones, they're getting to know their team members. They're finding, why are you here? What drew you to us? What keeps you here? What difference do you want to make in this organization? And that helps fuel your employee experience strategy. So this is all information that you're gathering by connecting with your people, whether it's your employees, whether it's directly or through your leaders, but helping them to identify or getting to the the genesis of why they're here, why they're with your organization, what difference do they want to make, what impact do they want to have, and then once you're doing that, then how do you connect the dots so that they see themselves embedded in the good that the organization is doing, the nonprofit is doing, and the impact that they're having in the community or on the clients that you serve. And so when they're able to see that, then it becomes kind of like what this picture is like the middle, you're connecting them to the center, to the nucleus of why they're there, and then you're helping them get out of the organization what they want to get out of. And then when they are receiving what they're there for, then they're able to flourish and thrive, and that helps your thriving numbers to go up, not just your employee engagement numbers go up, but the ability to see their them connected and them really in the trenches and excited to be in the trenches. And so again, this is probably one of the most impactful, but probably um, uh, the most challenging to help your leaders to see. So curious, what are your thoughts on meaning and purpose mapping? It's a little bit more work for you, and maybe a later on down the line thing, but put it in the back of your mind of an opportunity to be able to help your employees see how they fit in the organization and what impact and difference they make, and what you would be, how excited you are. Scale of 1 to 5, five being the highest. How excited are you? Let me know in the chat. One, like, that's probably not going to work for us, or five, I think that that's a great idea. And what are your thoughts on that? I think in a nonprofit, meaning and purpose mapping would be a great option. We're all mission driven. Awesome. Oh, great. Yay. Love to see that. Okay. And if you're a one, don't be afraid to say you're a one, because it may not work for your environment, and that's okay. But it could be something that, just in the back of your mind when you go to your next organization, maybe something that would help. All right. So light bulb moments. And if you haven't caught on yet, disengaged and unequipped leaders foster disengaged employees. So what do we do about it? Well, let me ask you first, what grade would you give your leaders on their level of employee engagement right now? Do you think they're doing pretty well? An A? Do you think they're doing okay? They're trying, but they need help. C? Uh, they're doing more harm than good, or something else? Ooh, okay. Got it. All right. So, um, hopefully in your employee engagement surveys, there is an opportunity for you to identify the the leaders and whether or not they are engaged or disengaged. And maybe that's a conversation, or maybe that's noticing their behavior. But I've come up with a strategy that's kind of simple: Operation D plus W, which is development and well-being. And so leaders need to feel as if they are supported by the organization as well. And so when they are feeling like they're supported and they're getting what they need, then they're more connected and they're able to pass that along. So what does that mean? Give them training. Maybe it's the overall training. So maybe it is starting with Leadership 101 if you do need to start with that. But then maybe there's spot skills that they need. Maybe they do need to learn how to be more effective communicators, both verbally and in writing. So address that. Maybe they do need support with giving and receiving feedback and do just trainings on those. Maybe they do need to be educated on psychological safety, and so maybe you just do spot courses. And then if there is the opportunity, if you do have a budget of development dollars, giving them a little bit more control over that so they can figure out, okay, is it conferences? Is it training programs? Is it a coach that they can have control over for themselves? And then get them together. And when you're able to get your leadership together and they're able to bond, they're able to ideate, they're able to collaborate through offsites, retreats, then that helps them come back, hopefully more refreshed, more energetic, more able, and more enthusiastic about passing it along down to their team. And then don't forget about their well-being, because leaders, I mentioned leadership is hard. And when they're often burning the candle at both ends, and usually they're not demonstrating effective self-care. And that usually leads to their team members doing one of two things: following their lead or totally doing the opposite. And then that's why it looks like they're quiet quitting, because they're saying, I'm not willing to do more. I see you killing yourself, and I'm not willing to do that. So help them focus on their well-being. Help them define what well-being looks like for the whole organization. And then how does that look individually? And then maybe do wellness challenges, encourage them to have walking meetings. Well, if you're a remote environment, maybe that doesn't quite work as well. But if you are partially in the office, when you're in the office, take advantage of those days. Don't just have them sitting in conference rooms, but allow them to get out, continue to do some of the same things that you did over the pandemic. uh, Manage those expectations. Look at those OKRs, look at those KPIs. Are they realistic? Are they able to be accomplished with what's happening? And then encourage their well-being for themselves. Help them create action plans of well-being for themselves, and then encourage that. And so maybe there is a well-being moment in every meeting. It's like, okay, uh, if you want to have encouraged that everybody is hydrated and is taking care of making sure that they are hydrated. Maybe it's swag of a water bottle, a nice water bottle, right? And not one of those, kind of cheap ones, but a water bottle, and say, hey, eh, help us to take micro breaks, or help us to have those well-being moments, and start meetings with well-being moments. Maybe if you have Slack channel, it's a well-being Slack channel that really helps to talk about not only physical but mental, psychological, spiritual, relational, all of those well-being aspects, to ensure that people are pouring into themselves as much as they're pouring into their work. All right. And so when it comes to the starting block, so for my departments of one, or for those that are just starting out, this is a pretty simple employee engagement strategy that is like the starting blocks. And so it's to make sure that we're communicating throughout the organization. that we're acknowledging our team members, that we're saying thank you, that we're giving kudos, and we're appreciating them for the work that they're doing. That we're starting a recognition and rewards channel on Slack or maybe in Teams, and that it may not always be monetary. Sometimes people need an attaboy. Sometimes people need to be recognized for it, and so this starts with the one-on-ones to identify what people want as far as recognition and rewards, and then meeting them where they are. And strategies, I think 15.5 is if you have the resources to invest in some of that, that is a recognition tool, an engagement tool that can help. And then employees always want to be developed. And so, starting there with the card, so we're starting with the communication and the acknowledgement, the rewards and recognition, and the development. That is at least the minimum amount of employee recognition that can happen, and helping your leaders do this. And so maybe first it's making sure that there's open and transparent communication. Then secondly, making sure that your leaders are acknowledging their team members, thanking them for a job well done, and offering them the recognition that they deserve. Absolutely. And then developing. And so developing is not always training programs. Sometimes it starts with coaching. Sometimes it is helping your leaders ask questions, open-ended questions that really help them to, you know, how do you want to grow? And how can I help you with that? And so that having those conversations of how does a person want to be developed would be a great starting point. All right. I think I have talked a little bit too much, so we're not necessarily going to get an opportunity to do the full um, breakout room activity, but I at least want to get you into 5 minutes into a breakout room so that you can talk about maybe do a start, stop, continue, and then an ask. So the start is what would you like to implement? One thing. Don't bite off more than you can chew, but just one thing. What is something that is not working that you want to put the pin in and say, hey, we need to stop doing that? What is something what is working that you want to continue? And then what support do you need? And do you need support with having the conversation with your leaders, or do you, what is it that could really help you? So I'm going to stop sharing, and PJ is going to put us in a breakout room. And any questions before we get started? And I know it's only 5 minutes. So if you want to pick one of those things, the start, stop, or the continue or the ask and share, we can at least do that and bring it back in 5 minutes.
Okay, everybody should have received an invite. Okay, everybody should be back.
All right. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. I do apologize that it was much less time than I initially wanted, but hopefully you got a chance to engage with your colleagues and get some of the wheels turning. And so now that you're back, won't have an opportunity to do a debrief, but I do want to give you some support. Okay, thank you for coming. Um, I do want to give you some support to assess where you are right now, and then when you're looking at, okay, uh, what are the organizational goals, and how can I align employee engagement with the organizational goals? Then come up with a development plan, and then communicate with the employees and with leaders, and also use data in that to help them identify where they are and where they want to go. So I know we only have a minute left, but let me know in the chat, or maybe if you want to come off mute And let me know, what are your takeaways, any comments, any questions? What's one thing that you're taking away to at least get started in your evaluation? And then what's an action that you'll take from today? Awesome. Appreciate you. Any questions or okay, okay, wonderful. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
I would definitely say, Veronica, I think that one thing that everyone has is the fact that they have so many different ideas and tools that they can implement immediately. Even if there are small things, even as you said earlier, just even doing little things and to try to to help your leaders move in the right direction, to helping them to be better leaders in working with their teams. I think you provided some amazing tools for them to be able to do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, again, thank you for being here. And if you need support, if you'll get a copy of the slide deck in a PDF. So these will be active QR codes, but there's a QR code for you to reach out to me for a 30-minute consultation, absolutely free, no obligation and no sell, just to be able to support you with getting your plan together. And then also there'll be a link in there for you to let me know how things went today and if there's any feedback for what I can do differently, and how useful this information is will be for you. And again, you'll get a copy, and both of these will be active links that you can use. So again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your engagement and wish you the best, and let you know that you're not in it alone. And if I could do one takeaway, is that in partnership with you and your managers together, you'll be able to turn your organization into a thriving, wonderful place to work. One engagement strategy at a time.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much, Veronica. As I said, so many great tools and ideas of things that we could do. And as Veronica said, you're definitely not alone. And also know that you certainly have the HR Roundtable community and others to be able to continue to put these ideas into action. And to share those ideas with one another and what's working in your organization and things that you've tried that perhaps may not be. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the day and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Bye, everybody.
Bye.